Hello, Mr. Houseman. Welcome to our automated check-in. Thanks, it's great to be here. I'm sorry, but why are you speaking to me in a computer voice? Are you making fun of me? No, not at all. I just figured since you are a computer, I would use a computer to handle off of my daily activities as well. That way neither of us actually have to interact with each other ever.
Do you live, eat, and sleep the hotel industry? Looking to brush up on your game? You've come to the right place. Welcome to No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast, with your host, Glenn Hausman.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to the No Vacancy podcast with Glenn Hausman. I am, of course, your intrepid host, and you're probably getting tired of hearing this, but we're coming to you live from AAHOA 2017 here in San Antonio, Texas. We've got a couple of great weeks of content out of this event, and I really appreciate everyone listening and supporting the show. Follow the No Vacancy podcast on Twitter, @TravelingGlenn is how to find me, and today I'm with Dave Eisen, the intrepid editor-in-chief with Hotel Management, where I also happen to serve as editor-at-large. How are you, David?
Good morning, good morning.
Yes, thank you for coming and talking to me. Now, by the time that this show airs on the podcast feed, not live, which you could be watching it on the AAHOA channel on Facebook, you know, you've had a little time to recover from the event, although we're recording this right smack dab in the middle of the event. And, man, a pretty interesting event, especially last night was real tough because you've got to have a strong stomach and liver to go from party to party to party.
It is morning time in San Antonio, and I found that San Antonio is actually a party city, right?
Well, I could tell I got the shakes this morning, so I think
you
it must
got the
be.
shakes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, you know, as a media person, you know, you have to go to you try to hit as many parties as you can to say hello to everyone. You know, because they all want your ear, right?
Yeah.
Talk about their great brands. And by the way, everyone's got the best brands. Everyone's got the best hotels. Everyone's got the best loyalty program.
And the largest pipeline and the highest customer satisfaction.
Exactly. I mean, to me, the industry, you can't go wrong because everyone's got the best.
I think it's amazing how everybody is tied at number one. Everyone's such a great job.
No one's number two.
Yeah.
But having said that, so yeah, you know, it can be a rough morning the day after the first night at these conventions. You know, you go out. We went to some really, you know, killer parties last night, though.
Yeah, for sure.
Wyndham's party was excellent. Location, right? So they had theirs at the Alamo.
That's pretty sweet. Now, I did not get to the party.
Remember
at
the Alamo?
I wish I got there because, as you know, I'm dying to see the basement in the Alamo.
Yeah, the basement has just been refinished, actually. So there's a pinball machine down there. It's like a game, you know, like a man cave.
Exactly.
It's fantastic.
And maybe Pee-wee's bike is still there. Who knows?
Yes. But it was cool, you know, fun party. It's cool to be at the Alamo. They had some nice tequila, which I probably, you know, imbibed a bit too much on. Mm-hmm. So, and that, you know, it doesn't help with the morning session, which I just came down from. But you know, it's always a great event. I mean, I think coming to the AAHOA convention, I think it's been my third or fourth year. It's just a great event. I mean, you can see in the families that are here. Yep. I did a panel yesterday, and the entire first and second row were you could tell it was the parents, the kids, the grandkids, and then their son was on stage talking about on my panel. Yeah. So it's such a great family event. I mean, it just brings everyone out, and it's one of the best events of the year because of that.
It certainly is, and I've spoken to other folks on here, most notably Bruce Ford, whose show aired last week about that family nature.
Bruce was on my panel yesterday.
Yes, he was. He said he really enjoyed it, had a good time, and he had some nice things to say about you.
Did he? Okay.
Yeah.
Anything in particular?
Yeah, he thought you handled the conversation great. There was really good flow, and he was pretty pleased by the whole thing.
We were up there. We were lucky for a good hour and a half. So sometimes, you know, as you being a podcaster, sometimes you have to stretch.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know.
I think the most I ever had to stretch was at the Hunter Hotel Investment Conference. I did a panel on where to find deals in 2009 or 2010, whatever it was. It was a horrific, nightmarish experience for an hour and a half.
An hour, yeah. Once you hit that hour threshold, and you see, you know, when as a moderator, I'm always scanning the crowd. I'm saying who's on their phone, and if they're on their phone 15 minutes in, then you're really in trouble.
Yeah.
But I got to the hour threshold, and everyone was still kind of, you know, there were people in and out, but it went pretty well.
I would like to give a little advice to all you conference organizers out there. Hour and a half, too much. There's nothing that can't be discussed in 45 minutes. I think that's the sweet spot.
Brevity is key.
30 to 45. I always found, you know, I've been kicking around this business for quite some time now, and as a participant in the audience before I had the opportunity to start hosting panels, I realized that to get my notes for my story, after about the 30-minute mark, I'm kind of all set.
Yeah, you're checked out.
Yeah.
I
Well,
agree.
not just checked out, kind of like people start to repeat themselves. It's the same conversation, it just has different words being used.
Yeah, you got it. And after a good, like you said, 45 minutes, it comes a white noise, and you're just like static. But
And there's nothing more painful than being up on stage trying to make it sound interesting and being engaged for that last part of it.
And as you know, as a moderator, because in media, I mean, that's what we do. We ask questions, and I find sometimes you'll have your set list of questions, and you'll ask a question, and then the panelists will answer that one. But in that time frame, they'll also answer your third, your fourth, your fifth, your sixth question.
You know
and then
it.
you're screwed, Glenn.
Yeah.
And then what do you do? What do you do? And I can't juggle. I can't rap.
Right.
Maybe I could rap.
Well, you could dance, though. I've seen it.
I could do a jig maybe. I could rattle off box scores, but it's not a good thing.
No, but I think learning about hotels and hearing the latest box scores would probably be a great combination.
Yeah, hotels and baseball go hand in hand.
Yeah, but that's really frustrating, especially when you're doing these interviews in the podcast format or the other formats that we do sometimes, that you need to have that element. When you ask that first question and they give you all the answers in the first 30 seconds that you were planning to use for 20 to 30 minutes, tough.
Can I just say, though, by the way, I mean, I'm sure people talk about this setup. Obviously, it's a podcast. You can't see, but you maybe see on video later. This is prime, man. Like, we usually do our podcasts over the phone, or you're in my office that has no window. Here, I'm just surrounded by glass. I feel just like, you guys really hooked it up this year.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's really awesome, and it is so much fun to see the streams of people walking by and stopping and watching.
I've seen it, and people have been raving about it. Look, I'm plugging your show, obviously. But being, I've been on it so much. I'm like the Steve Martin now.
That's right.
Saturday Night Live, I'm on constantly.
We got to get you in the Five-Timers Club.
Yeah, exactly. I know that. I feel like Alec Baldwin. We've had some CEOs up in here and some really great developers, people. So
yeah,
do you have any good? Who's been your favorite so far? Are you allowed to say?
They're all number one.
Oh, they're all number one. Come on.
Just
now
like
you
the
sound like
brands.
a hotel company, Glenn. Come on.
You cannot put me in
opine.
You cannot put me in a position in order to choose one guest.
Has anyone been really kind of really opinionated and give you some really good stuff?
Well, I can tell you the worst guest I have was Bruce Ford. Just kidding, Bruce. That's an easy swipe.
Oh, yeah. Well, Bruce, don't worry about it. After this one, he'll have a new worst guest.
Yeah, no, but honestly, they were all great, and I thought the energy from all the interviews that we did yesterday was really fantastic. Yeah. I had a chance to talk to Keith Klein for the first time ever, the CEO of La Quinta.
Yeah, they're doing a lot of stuff.
I had him on a panel last year when I was at AAHOA. I had the honor of doing the president panels last year, and getting to speak with him one-on-one in this format was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Speaking to Andy Alexander for the first time in the No Vacancy podcast was a lot of fun. I had spoken to him before on the other show, and we got to speak with John Greenleaf, who now runs Hilton Garden Inn with Hilton, and I never spoke with him before. And that was an interesting and different experience, and of course I got a few minutes with Adrian Curry, who's become a fan of mine. He's running the Homewood Suites by Hilton and the Home 2 Suites by Hilton brands right now.
So you have the Hilton peeps up in here.
Yeah.
No Marriott?
No.
If you have Hilton, you have to have. We had Liam Brown on my panel yesterday from Marriott.
Well, I would like to get Marriott, and if anyone here from Marriott, I'm looking right at you, Marriott, contact me. I'm sorry, they don't seem to ever return my phone calls. I'm unloved by Marriott.
They don't return Glenn Hausman's phone calls?
So they're the one brand that I seem to have a real hard time getting in with. I've been trying my entire career. They don't seem to...
Well, Glenn, now that they own the world, they don't really. I guess they don't.
It's just going to compound the problem because Marriott loves to have very tight controls over their messaging, is the polite way to put it.
True.
And it's very difficult for them to get to talk to you on your terms as opposed to their terms.
Yeah. Is there some kind of space? Is there someone mowing the lawn outside?
Well, we want to keep the studio, clean
Getting worried.
and fresh.
Have we? Okay. North Korea isn't bombing us yet, have they?
No, not yet. We still got a little time. But, speaking of panels and how difficult it can be to manage those things, I have to tell you, you got to give it out to Chip Rogers, who's the president and CEO of AAHOA yesterday. He had quite the job managing 11 panelists at one time.
So here's the joke I made on Twitter that I think 3 people liked, which is high for me.
Yeah.
It was like basically there were 11 CEOs on stage. And it was almost like if you think about the State of the Union, when Donald Trump or Barack Obama, they go get the State of the Union, someone has to stay back so that if the Capitol explodes and they all...
Right.
That it was the same kind of situation. Like, I'm glad Arnie Sorensen and Chris Aceto were there because if the convention center, something befell it, we'd have to have some hotel CEOs back.
Then we'd have Kiefer Sutherland in charge as the...
and I don't know how well he can drive RevPAR. Kiefer Sutherland.
I don't know, but he can certainly save people within 24-hour periods.
He can save people in 24-hour periods, but I don't know how well he can fill rooms. And but I mean, who knows?
So I was broadcasting here all day yesterday from the No Vacancy studio here at HOACon 2017, and I did not get a chance to experience the President CEO panel for myself. So I'm going to rely on you to take us through that and some of the things that you learned during that session.
Here's what I learned. I learned a lot. When you come to a conference like this, you have these, first generation, second generation hotel owners, and what they really want. I mean, the brand is there to be their kind of backbone, their support, drive, heads and beds, distribution, that kind of thing. That's what they rely on. But they don't want to. What they don't want is to be mandated, really. And we know about this. Even in Washington, when we talk about regulation, they don't want the regulation. They don't want the brands to kind of jam standards down their necks, throats. And I think the brands understand that, that the only reason they really want to mandate some kind of standard or whatever it may be is if there is a direct correlation to ROI.
Right.
And they understand that. I mean, you're speaking to a crowd like this. What are you going to say? No, we're going to jam these, brand standards.
Well, they used to, and they had no shame about it.
Right. I think we live in a different era now.
Oh, we definitely do. And some of the conversations I've been having here and over the last couple of years is really the more sense of understanding that there's a cohesive partnership between the owners and the brands, and they have to kind of figure it all out together.
There certainly has to be. I mean, in an age where there's so much transparency out there, so many different channels of distribution. When you talk about, I mean, I talk to I've had great conversations with a lot of CEOs here, and what you just keep on hearing is really what's going on with Expedia, Priceline,
right.
and the duopoly there. It makes running a hotel. I mean, it's so different, I assume, from, I've been in the industry, 10 years. It's changed so much since then. But operating a hotel has become so much more challenging than it was in years past, and you have all these different...
Yeah, it's more complex. It is definitely more challenging.
More complex,
and
right.
when it comes to those mandates that you were talking about, it's not necessarily all up to the owners.
So it's like, okay, what's sexy and cool to have like keyless entry or whatever it is. That's an expense, though.
Right.
A big expense. And how many people does it really matter that much? I don't know. Millennials, they want to pull out their phone.
I can throw out a fancy statistic that I learned.
Oh, you have numbers.
I do. Adrian Curry, who we just said runs those two brands for Hilton as a global head, he said that at their company, 80% of people that are... Wait, was it 80% of people are checking in online or something? No,
right.
20% of people are checking in
Glenn,
online.
do you have the numbers or not?
I don't have them written down in front of me. I'm trying to jog my memory. And I already told you I've got the shakes, David.
Got the shakes. I can see it, yeah.
20% of people are checking in online, and 80% of those are using the keyless entry.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's obviously trending upward.
Right.
And I think, 5-10 years from now. I mean, the whole industry is going to be flipped around. Not just the industry, but I think, just the world as we know it. When we talk about what's going on with virtual reality, augmented reality, AI, machine learning, all these things are coming down the pike. I've seen it, and they are. So it's going to change up everything.
I'm just a little worried that soon it's going to be a total recall, and I'm just going to be going and getting my vacation in my brain, and never actually having to go anywhere.
You could literally put a VR headset on, not leave your couch, and be in Hawaii, playing golf in St. Andrews. I mean, there's so many applications out there that it's kind of scary. But we won't get into that. That's not good for the hotel industry. They want to still fill rooms. So
but speaking of filling rooms, sometimes the brands do have to mandate things, I would argue, that don't have a clear and cohesive ROI because we need to move forward in the industry. You cannot wait, I think, for every single owner to get on board with certain programs if it's really where we're heading to in trends with customers.
I do think it does come back down to is there a value to the customer too? Right. I mean, technology, as we know, is ever changing. It changes every day, and it's expensive. But I think that's where the brands come in, is really to kind of be that to help franchisees, owners out with changing technology and things like that. But I do think I think an owner they want to invest in their product, obviously, but it's like some of these things, amenities, services, they might be superfluous now, but so who knows down there?
And that's the difficult part. Yeah. When, as a brand champion, do you pull the trigger on a particular initiative because you know it's a trend and it's going to be needed in the future? Do you want to get ahead of it, or, as we have a rich history here of tradition and hospitality, be really behind it?
That's true. The industry is kind of slower to evolve, I think, than others, but we'll see. We'll see how it works out. But like you just said before, everything is always. It's such a fluid industry. Things change, so who knows?
Yeah. So we have a president, right? His name is Donald J. Trump,
Yes,
and he also happens to have a hotel company.
does.
And Eric Danzer, the president CEO of that particular part of the organization, love the guy.
Right.
Really nice guy. Came from last job he had before that was a couple of jobs before that was Wyndham. Right. And man, I feel like the guy's in a tough position right now. What happened at the panel yesterday, and did you learn any context or depth on that?
He's a dude. Eric's a great dude, and he comes, like you said, from Wyndham, Starwood, and then Hampshire after that. He's a franchiser at heart, right?
Yeah.
And it was interesting to see. It was like, hey, what's Eric Danziger, the Trump Hotels doing up there? Because Trump Hotels is not these guys here in the crowd, they're not doing Trump Hotels.
No, it's strange. It's strange to go from a company where you're at Wyndham with thousands of hotels to an organization that has, compared to that, just a handful.
They have a fledgling, the Scion brand, which is going to be the 4-star kind of lifestyle brand. But then it was interesting because he got up there and he said, I'm here because they are reportedly rumored to be looking at doing a 3-star franchise brand.
Right.
No name. I think it's more of just kind of in the beginning. German.
I have a feeling with the way political sentiment is today, they should call it not a Trump hotel.
I don't think it'll be Trump. It won't be. I don't think you'll see the Trump name in it anywhere. Yeah. But it's still within the Trump family. People know. Of course. It's interesting though because, and I'll bring it back to politics. So I was watching a roundtable yesterday where President Trump has all these CEOs next to him, Steven Schwartzman. It's hard, and Eric Danzer, he always says, it's Donald Trump's his name on the company, but he has nothing to do with the hotel company anymore.
No, and that's one of the things that frustrates me. They keep saying Donald Trump's the first hotelier president, but I never saw him as a hotelier president. I saw him a guy that put hotels in his real estate.
But tangentially, he does, because during that, for instance, that roundtable, I wouldn't say he kind of plugged his hotels, but he talked about someone there and how he helped him out with doing the Trump International in New York, that kind of thing. But then but I think and this is kind of doing like conspiracy theory type stuff. And Eric Danziger, I love you. I love Trump hotels, right? Yeah. But he's talking. They're talking about Eric talking about this new franchise brand that might come out. But then you have Donald Trump during this. It's broadcast on NBC, and he's talking about how he wants to make it easier for small business owners to get lending for banks to lend to them. Right. So then he's talking about that, and then they're launching the fact that there's going to be this new franchise brand and I guarantee he knows about this. It's not like the Trump Hotel Company, Trump Hotels, is going to launch a new brand without him knowing about it.
Absolutely.
It's just impossible for him to disentangle really himself from his background in his business. Right. And Eric it's hard for him. Obviously, when he goes to all these events, people are just like looking at him as like president, in his dealings with President Trump. But he tries to kind of disentangle himself from that, and he does a great job at that. He's in a tough kind of
It is, which gets me thinking. Sometimes I fantasize about getting to do an interview with him, and sometimes.
Donald Trump or Eric Danziger?
No, Eric Danziger. Okay. I don't think I would
Eric
have access
would do it.
to. Yes, but I'm not sure how I would handle it. And, because a lot of times what we do here is more feel-good than necessarily hard-hitting journalism. And, we all have relationships with each other, and we're not really here to play the gotcha game.
Glenn, you don't break the news, you sprain it.
Right. Okay. It's a great way of putting it.
There you go.
So if you were to do an interview with him, would you give him those hardball questions?
I think you'd have to.
I mean, you couldn't not.
Listen, if he was maybe not, if he was going on MSNBC or CNN, all the fake news stations.
Yes.
They would be asking him these hard-hitting questions. For him, he's been around the industry for 30 years. He's seen so much, whatever it is. You'd want to have that kind of stories, but you'd have to, because you wouldn't be doing your job as anyone if you had.
I'm just afraid that it would open up a hornet's nest, because I'm not necessarily sure. Even if I asked the right questions, I would get back the answers that I was.
Like any politician, he'd probably pivot and give you an answer that's not an answer to that wasn't to your question.
Right. Yeah. I feel like it would kind of go something So, Eric, do you feel that the political climate would adversely affect your bottom line for your hotels? And then I'm probably going to get back some sort of answer that has to do with nothing with the hotel industry.
It's like, we're building. Yeah, exactly. It's tough for him, but I mean, he came out. I think Donald Trump said that they wouldn't be doing any foreign investments or development. I mean, Eric Danziger, that's what he built. He's a brand builder. He's a hotel builder, and I think he was initially brought on before Donald Trump was even elected president. to develop Trump hotels in Asia Pacific, in Europe. So it's
I'd be curious.
tough
I'd be
situation,
curious to get into his brain and what he really thought was going to happen in terms of the election.
I don't think anyone thought at the time when he
No.
came on that Donald Trump would best all these, slay these opponents to become president. I don't, and then to be Hillary Clinton. I mean, this is a hotel show, so we won't get into it. But as you see now, Donald Trump is kind of reversing his courses a little bit. With Steve Bannon looking like he might be on his way out, and now he's becoming more. He's getting rid of that kind of nationalist tone and bringing it back down. So.
In order to be a successful president, you always have to move towards center.
You do, yeah.
There's no doubt about that. But I think what's interesting about all of this and is just that I don't know what the guy is going to do. He's trapped in this really difficult situation. I wish him the best of luck, but hell, man, I would never want to have that particular job at this particular time in history. And I'll tell you, all of the super Republicans that I talked to here at AAHOA and other places, they were all like, I never expected that guy to win. And they're all kind of flummoxed by
I don't
the
know
whole
if they love Trump.
They love the Republican Party
love the
and
Republican
that
Party.
platform.
They love that platform. Pro-business.
Right.
No lower regulations. Grover Norquist is talking right now as we're speaking.
Right.
I'm doing this podcast, by the way, instead of listening to Grover Norquist, which is like crazy, right?
Yeah.
Grover Norquist being the Americans for Tax Reform. So tax reform, these are the issues that really, these people live and breathe hotels, and regulation hurts them. We talk about wage increases, that kind of thing. So they might not love Donald Trump, but they love the Republican.
Agreed. And I think that a lot of them, I wouldn't say they have buyer remorse at all about what's happening right now. I just wish they had more of a customer-friendly leader at the top.
Even Chip Rogers was talking about sometimes Donald, not sometimes, well, yeah, I guess sometimes. The majority of the time, he'll tweet things that kind of make you cringe a little bit. But like you said before, he's well, it's funny because he used to be a Democrat.
Yeah,
he used to be a Democrat who was
he still really
pro-abortion, and now
Yeah.
he's a Republican who's.
He embraced Jesus really quick as soon as he found out he could get votes on that side.
Donald Trump is say what you want about him, but he's kind of brilliant when it comes to
Absolutely.
marketing, PR.
Heck, yeah.
So, but you're right. For Eric Tanziger, as the president, as the CEO of Trump Hotel, who knows what his dealings are with Eric and Don Jr. and Ivanka, not Ivanka anymore because she's in D.C. So.
Right. All right, so let me put it to you this way. Eric, if you're out there, drop
get
us
him
a
on
line. Well, maybe we could both do the
saw him
interview
yesterday.
together.
I should have told him to jump in the box.
You should have. I would love to have a chance with you. I don't want to have any fights or disagreements. I really just want to understand what that universe is like and what it must be like to be caught kind of in the middle, because I would feel you just can't win because you're, no matter what you do, there are people that are going to be really angry with you.
Exactly. But, he's a hotelier at heart. I had a meeting with him a few months ago in Trump Tower on the 25th floor. It was like The Apprentice.
That's pretty cool.
I was not fired. It was like right after Donald Trump had become, maybe it was, I don't know if it was
before
right
the
after,
inauguration.
Before the inauguration for sure, but it's a tough situation.
Learned anything else from the big panel? 11 presidents and CEOs up there.
I'd have to
I'm
look
sure
through my
Steve
notes.
Joyce.
Oh,
made
Steve
some
Joyce
great
is a riot, man. That guy. Brand CEOs, a lot of them up there, publicly traded companies. They don't want to say things that will kind of just rock the boat.
You see that with Arnie Sorensen and Kristen Nassetta.
Yeah, they were in there.
Right. Last year when I worked with them, they're super polished guys. They will not get tripped up no matter what you say.
No, Arnie Sorensen is like he's like Don Draper-esque,
right?
For Mad Men.
Yeah.
He's got the beautiful hair, the perfect teeth.
Really, for sure.
When he talks, there's no stumbling over words. He knows exactly what he's going to say. Kristen says the same way. Great tan.
I was just about to say, best tan in the
industry.
business. He's going to give
Both
George
have great
Hamilton a
hair.
run
All
for
these
the money.
guys have great hair. They're tall. I want their hair.
Every time I see Kristen Nassetta, I feel like he just came off the beach from surfing or something.
Jeff
like
Bellotti, I just talked. Yeah. He's got great hair too. These guys are like, older than me and have more hair than me and better complexions.
That's how you get to be CEO. You have to be over 6 feet tall and have great hair.
Yeah, I'm screwed. 5'7".
There's nothing to do with skill
hair
set.
with like a receding hairline.
I think you're a gorgeous specimen. If that makes me feel any better,
I appreciate that.
But Steve Joyce is in I always see the two different categories. So super Wall Street guys like Nassetta and Sorensen, and then you got guys like Steve Joyce who know how to play the game, but doesn't play by those same types of rules.
He makes some funny. He's a little sardonic, but he'll say things. He was talking about just how he doesn't make any bones about it. Like he was talking about millennials and boomers. He's like, you know what? They all want the same thing. They might just want to get it differently. But everyone, baby boomers, they're all about. They're as much about mobile and Netflix as their 20-year-old
right.
Cousin or nephew.
That's one of the things that really annoys me, and I have to keep stressing this point. We focus so much on the freaking millennials, thinking that they're the only ones want to do stuff, but the entire spectrum of ages and culture want the same things. They just may adapt to things a little bit slower. But that's it.
Exactly.
We all want convenience through technology. We all want to feel empowered in our stays, and blah blah blah, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
There's no age or demographic that covers everybody wants that, and I think still baby boomers are like the highest consumers still from consumption standpoint.
Absolutely,
they have obviously the means and more wealth than their millennial counterparts. Millennials will overtake them as the years go on.
Of course, like every generation.
But I just hate. I wrote about it. I worried about it. I just hate. I don't like it when brands they design hotels, they design experiences that are geared toward millennials. I don't know what it even means anymore.
Right.
I guess millennials like small rooms, and the public space.
That's what I'm told.
Yeah, they love small spaces. They don't need a lot of closet space. I guess they travel. They wear jeans and t-shirts. That's all they need.
Right. Well, they don't have any money for any wardrobe, I guess.
Yeah. Exactly. They spend. I don't know what they're spending it all on.
Right. I don't know. I'm still not convinced that guests are demanding smaller rooms. I feel like the industry is kind of coming to a conclusion based on what their goals are to lower development costs to sell more properties.
Yeah, I mean, you want to make sure you can, if your cost per key is obviously south of $100,000 excluding land, then you're doing all right. But there are brands out there where the rooms are getting smaller. I don't care if it's smaller, really. I just want to make sure it has to have a feel like it can be compact, but if it has everything I need and I don't feel really cramped. I mean, I live in New York, man.
Right.
It's not like I know what a small studio apartment feels like. You know what I mean?
And I definitely don't want that when I'm traveling.
No, I like to spread my. If I'm going my wingspan is not David Robinson's, who's going to speak. Who's speaking right now?
He walked by the way.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Oh, the Admiral walked by.
I know you weren't. You didn't see him, but I saw a really giant, tall dude bending over to take pictures with people.
That was not me. That was definitely David Robinson.
And he's taller, much taller than the average CEO.
Well, I don't know if David Robinson can stay in a true hotel, right? Could he even fit?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
So we'll have to find that out.
No, he seems more of like a. I don't know. It'd be interesting to know where these guys stay.
Right.
But more,
All right, so before we wrap up, David, we're both participating in a hotel management series of hotel ROI events coming to a city near you. It's going to be hyper-localized information for Houston, L.A., Chicago, Atlanta, Pittsburgh, Baltimore, and Charlotte. Pretty cool stuff.
It's going to be great. Houston is in a couple weeks, April 24th.
Yep.
It's really about, you have, and we're doing it in a partnership with AAHOA, which is fantastic,
Yep.
to have that backing. Great partners. It's really about taking your profits to the max. And it's not always through a real estate play. You have your asset and you buy and sell. Right. But it's really about how you operate your hotel to the fullest, how you maximize your revenues, how you control your costs, that kind of thing. It's really about taking that and how you derive as much ROI from your product. Now, we're going to have some great speakers there. It's going to be a fantastic show. And it's great because we call them kind of educational snacks.
Yeah.
Quick.
Right.
It's what you can.
Not an hour and a half panel.
No. Quick panels, one afternoon, and you can go. You can be at the conference that morning, the event, and be back at your office by 5 p.m.
That's what I like. And go back to your office. A lot of hyper-local information that's relevant to you. None of this, the entire country is doing X, Y, Z. You're going to learn about what your market is doing, the nuances of it, and also how to succeed within that market through interesting sales and marketing techniques.
Yeah, like I said, the first one's in Houston. We heard from Amanda Height from STR, T. Hunter was talking about the oil markets, Houston. They're down now, but they're coming back up, and by next year they're going to be, I think, back on top. So.
Great, super. How can we attend one of those events?
You can go to hotelroi.com, and that you can register right there. You can always reach out to me too, and I can tell you how to do it.
Great.
You can email me at deisen@questex.com, QUESTEX.com, or you can hit me up on Twitter, David Eisen, the number 3.
Great.
Easy.
And, of course, you can find me for the Hotel ROI events and for anything and everything hospitality here at the No Vacancy Podcast. Final words, David.
Rock and roll, man. I'm loving it.
Yeah, man. It was a lot of fun. Great being on video on the podcast with you, and we're going to have to do this again real soon. I think you're one of my most fun, regular rotating guests.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah, take that, Bruce Ford. Just kidding.
We love you, Bruce.
If I could get you on the show every month and him on the show every month, I feel like I'm much better for it.
There you go.
Well, thanks for watching, and thanks for listening, everybody. And, hey, we'll be back with more exciting live interviews from here at AAHOA. And if you're listening to the podcast feed, guess what? We got another fantastic interview coming right up after this commercial break. Thanks so much for paying attention.
Have a question for your host, Glenn? Tweet him now at Traveling Glenn. No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast. We'll be right back.
Hey, everyone. Thanks so much for listening to the No Vacancy podcast with me, Glenn Hausman. You know, you're listening to this right now. That's right, right now. You're listening. But you're not the only one. Many others are too. So my question is, do you want to get noticed? Guess what? I can help you with that. Every single month, my content delivers more than 100,000 impressions. I know. I thought the same thing too. Now it's your time to get you or your product, service, or brand known by leveraging my network. I'll work with you to find creative solutions that are going to get your message to the ears and eyes that you need to attract. Just send me a note at glenn@rouse.media or find me on Twitter at travelingglenn. That's glenn@rouse.media, ROUSE.MEDIA. And while we're at it, Glenn has got 2 N's. Thanks for listening, and now back to more great content.
Back to the show. It's No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast with your host, Glenn Hausman.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the No Vacancy podcast. This is, of course, Glenn Hausman reporting here live and now for you guys here on tape from AAHOA 2017 in San Antonio, and I am absolutely delighted to be here. Man, are we seeing so much traffic coming by. If you're watching this on Facebook, come on by, come say hello. We're taking great testimonials from everybody on Facebook for 1 to 3 here. It'll be absolutely fantastic. And if you're listening to it now in the comfort of your car or wherever, hey, you missed out on the opportunity, but at least we got a great interview for you today. I got Mr. John P. Greenleaf. He's the global head of Hilton Garden Inn. And we've never had a chance to speak on the microphone before, so this is exciting. Welcome, John.
Thanks so much, Glenn. Appreciate it.
I'm absolutely delighted to have you here today. So, John, you got your work cut out for you. I've been hanging out with Adrian Curry for the last couple of days, who's now the global head of Home 2 Suites and Homewood. And he came from Hilton Garden Inn. That's where I got to know him. And I got to confess, I've always liked the brand. I thought it's been great. It's been doing new, exciting things overall. And it was the first brand, I think, that I connected with in a way that felt like it wasn't full service. It wasn't focused service. It's what I started to call quasi-full service. You have everything that I liked and got rid of the stuff that I didn't like the bellman who kept insisting they needed to carry my bag, even though my bag is on wheels and I travel 100 nights a year. So nice job, with the brand overall.
Well, credit there goes to Adrian. He's done a wonderful job for a long time, making the brand the market leader that it is, and it's a leadership position we've maintained through 2016. One of the things that I've been asked to do to follow Adrian's leadership is to take a very successful brand and see what we can do to refresh the brand, is the way we're referring to it, and take the brand and not just continue the leadership position, but make changes that really are embraced by our existing customers, but may also give some people a reason to come try us if they haven't experienced a stay at a Hilton Garden Inn in the past.
So that sounds to me like it could be a journey fraught with a lot of traps, because you've got this established customer base, but you also want to bring in new people, but you don't want to turn off the people that are already with the brand. How do you balance yourself on that tightrope? Makes me feel like that guy who walked across the Twin Towers in the 1970s.
Yeah, it's one of the Walendas.
Yeah.
Well, it is a delicate balance. You're exactly right, Glenn. And one of the things we need to do, and what we started more than a year ago, was to identify what we view, and more importantly our guests view, as the core attributes of what makes a Hilton Garden Inn a Hilton Garden Inn. Mm-hmm. And those don't necessarily need to look, feel, or taste the same in every hotel, but their expectations need to be met, whether they're going to be in one of our 8 new hotels in 8 new countries in Africa,
right,
or somewhere else in the world, or an established hotel in the U.S. So that's what we've done, is focus on those core attributes, make sure we can put them in any size or variety of hotel that we open around the world, and continue a very, very strong focus on the culture, the hospitality culture that we as a Hilton brand offer our guests.
All right, so as a fan of Hilton Garden Inn, what do I like about the brand?
Well, one thing that we know you like about the brand, if you're like many of our guests, is the food and beverage offering that we have.
I figured talking to me was going to go straight to the booze. I get it. I understand.
That's right, the bar and the food. So what we've done with food and beverage is really find a concept there that we're going to refine for our new prototype, which is bar-centric, but the bar gets to be used throughout the day.
As it should.
And the food portions will be smaller, more shareable. We'll have locally crafted beers and wines. So we're really going to talk about customizing the food offering to a local market, which is not unique, but the way we're going to execute it, we believe, is going to be better than anyone else who's tried it. We've also
that would be pretty lame if you came in here and said, "Yeah, we're going to do a third best."
No, it will be great. We look forward to having you come in and experience it. And we've also put in test in 7 markets now in Europe and in the U.S. What we're testing is the Garden Market, which is an expanded retail market that offers not just drinks and snacks, but also freshly made food. It has a fairly high percentage of merchandise and food products from local markets. And the experience that we've had and owners have had, importantly, with the returns in the markets where we've put it in has been truly remarkable.
So you're kind of trying to appeal to both types of guest personas. One that wants that quick serve type of experience, maybe eat it on their own in the lobby, or take it back up to the room. Then there's this more social dynamic that you're talking about with this food that's brought to your table.
Exactly right. And the one thing that we will continue to do is offer the cook-to-order breakfast in our hotels, which our guests love. As well as the hot meal in the evening. Lunch will become optional for owners based on the market demands.
Right.
But we'll still have a uniqueness with the brands against whom we compete with the food offering that we have. And we've been recognized 10 years in a row now by an independent company that does ratings on the food and beverage in our hotels and our competitors.
That's pretty cool. I like that whole bar scene that you created. And I felt like the Hilton Garden Inn was the first one to start to understand in the select service, focus service arena that people do want to hang out in the lobby. People do want some food and beverage in their hotel. They don't necessarily want to go across the street to the fast food or the upscale casual dining restaurant.
Yeah, and you're exactly right. The more we can have our guests and guests who may not have experienced in one of our hotels yet view it as a destination rather than a pass-through and move to another place for a meal, we will have been successful.
Yeah, and that's why I get that quasi-full service kind of feel for it, because I really want to be able to have those choices to have that food and beverage in the hotel, because quite frankly, sometimes I'm just not in the mood to leave the building and go hunting.
Exactly.
All right, so regional food and beverage.
Yes.
I want to hear more about that, because that's interesting to me, because I'm getting tired of the hamburger and the chicken wings, and I know as a traveler we're all seeking that, I'm going to use those words again, experience and blah blah, authenticity, and food plays a big part in that, especially when it comes to regional cuisine. We're coming at you from San Antonio, Texas right now, and Tex-Mex is on my mind, of course. So obviously you would focus more on that in this part of the region and other types of cuisines in other parts of the world.
That's exactly what we've done, and our food and beverage team's done an outstanding job in actually crafting 50 different menu options for our hotels in each of the states around the country. And those are options that are flexibly available to any of our hotels. So based on demand in their markets and the kind of clientele they have, we have items available, menu items available for them to include.
Right.
That and the expanded garden market will give an opportunity to put in drinks and packaged foods that are local as well. So we're working very hard to do that, and the reception has been great.
I like that idea of drinks and packaged foods from the local market. We have, I'm from Long Island, and I used to live in Brooklyn. I had a hard time getting over the fact that I moved out of Brooklyn. I kept claiming I was from Brooklyn for a while, but I'm a Long Island boy now. And one of the things that we have at, if you're ever on the LIE, between exits 51 and 52, they just built a brand new rest stop, and they have all that local type of stuff, all Long Island related stuff. And then it made me think, oh wow, I didn't know Long Island had so many cool products, right? That really represented the feeling of the neighborhood. So I guess that you having those localized type of foods helps really create that regional feel that you're looking for.
It does, and we've actually built out a garden market here at the show.
Oh,
and
cool.
If you were to come by and look, the food products that we have in the market are local to San Antonio and Texas. So it'll give you a very good sense for what that will look like in the hotels when we build them out.
How do you make sure that everyone has a regional cuisine, but the pricing to the owner isn't out of whack?
Well, the options that we offer to our hotels for food and beverage are significant, and the requirements we have in the menu are few. So we really leave it up to the general managers and their food and beverage managers to determine what will sell in that market. And to your earlier point, burgers still sell just about everywhere.
Of course they do.
But there are other items that are unique to the market that people will try, and that's what we're really trying to do, is create a little bit of a freshness and some adventure in the food and beverage.
Where are you coming down on healthy foods on food and beverage? Because it's one of those things for years, it's like everybody demanded, but no one actually consumed. Right. I'm starting to feel that maybe we're moving a little bit more towards actual consumption of those products.
Well, we are, and one of the things we focused on as well are a number of organic items on our menus too, because there are certain markets where that's very, very strong, very, very strong demand for those products. So you're exactly right, whether it's gluten-free or some of the organically grown fruits and vegetables, strong demand in many markets, and we have that as an option.
Good. That's what I like. I like the option, and I don't want to brag too much. There's somebody riding a bicycle right by the studio right now. Sorry, I'm laughing, but one of the things that I'd like to brag about is I had a banana and I had a nice healthy cereal bar this morning, as opposed to the horrible bacon and eggs breakfast. So I just want to congratulate myself.
You're going to have a healthy day, I'm sure.
I'm sure. Yeah. That's exactly what's going to happen by the end of this day. No, no problem. So you guys are on a developmental tear. I know that a number of years ago you started going into international markets, and it's exciting to see where you're going. Now, you teased it earlier in this conversation, Africa, massive continent. We always forget about it. We don't realize. We seem to lump it in as to one country when it's dozens and dozens and dozens of countries. You've got your first set of hotels coming there now. I'd love to learn a little bit more about what you think about the entire continent and what Hilton Incorporated's opportunities are down there.
Well, we have dedicated development teams in Africa. We've made great progress there in the past few years. And as I mentioned, we have a number of deals signed now for Hilton Garden Inn.
Yeah, 8, I believe you said.
Yes, and we'll open our first hotel at the Nairobi, Kenya airport here in just a few short weeks. So we're off to a quick start there, and we'll continue to focus. But it's not unlike other parts of the world where you need to focus on demand, a lack of international brand presence, and the opportunity for the Hilton brands to generate some efficiencies in those markets.
But I would love for you to tell me what you feel about some of the countries in Africa that we might not understand as Americans that are doing great. I think we have a tendency to just wash over that whole continent as it's a disaster, when that's really not the case at all.
It's really not the case at all, and you'll see that there are many very mature, stable markets in East Africa, Tanzania, for instance, where Hilton has quite a number of products. Kenya, in Nairobi, a very important market for the continent, one where there is a lack of presence of what we would consider branded hotels. Even down in South Africa, where the hotel population is pretty strong, but there's still a lot of inbound travel, significant amounts of growth, and we think it's a wonderful presence for us. Many of the other countries in Africa, it's 1 or 2 markets per country that we're focusing on.
Of course.
It's different from other key markets in Europe where you'll have many more that are more strongly developed. So we're picking and choosing very carefully, but we found some very strong partners to work with there, and we think it's going to be a real growth market for us. Clearly not as high profile as some of the others that we're currently in Asia, but one that's very, very important to our growth.
Is that really the strategy going forward, is multiple partners and multiple locations? Because there was a time in our business when it seemed to be, when we were all dipping our toes in international waters, these master franchise agreements, which I think in generalizing, I could say didn't really go as expected for the industry in aggregate.
Yeah, I think in a continent like Africa, where the markets are so different one to the next, local knowledge is extremely important. And our experience has been that we can find some people with keen local knowledge. They're wonderful to partner with, to give us an education as we work with them to develop a brand presence. So I think it's going to be a little bit more of the individuals with strong local presence. And I think, as we've done in other parts of the world, we'll grow into some larger companies and some people with a greater presence.
Most notably Brazil, I think you really need to have local partners there, and that's a great springboard for you for all of South America, yes?
Yes, and we've signed a partnership in Brazil with a company called Atlantica, which has nearly 100 hotels.
Wow.
And we've opened Garden Inns there over the course of the last 15 months. We have many more deals that we'll be doing with them. Very important market, can be a difficult market unless you know it well locally. and they've been there and been experienced for a long time. So we're thrilled to have a partnership like that to really accelerate our growth.
Yeah, it's really important to have those guys on the ground that understand those market nuances, right? Mm-hmm. Because I see people that enter the hospitality industry here in America that haven't been familiar, and they don't understand a lot of the basics about how things work. They come in thinking they do, but then they really don't. So you get that local guy in Brazil, he knows the guys that can make things happen, because everyone's got to have a guy, right?
Yeah, everybody has to have a guy. You're right, and for us, we have to have somebody there who knows the market, because especially with brands that were initiated as prototypical brands, taking a prototype that worked in your Long Island and dropping it in Rio de Janeiro is almost assuredly going to fail, because there are nuances, whether it's food and beverage, as we've talked about, or certain approaches to room sizes or use of the public space, that are very important that they be a bit different but still represent the brand well. And those nuances are really what we need local help with.
That being said, if you open up a Hilton Garden Inn by my house and you have a churrascaria, then I will definitely come and dine over there. That's for sure. All right. Another major part of the world that a lot of people talk about constantly is China. Lately we've been talking more about all of that middle class that's going to be coming to the United States, but I think we're missing the big point of them all traveling within their country first, and you guys have made a big play there as well.
We have made a big play there across a number of brands. We have 6 brands now in China, and the important thing for us is to continue the pace of growth, continue to localize the operating models, both in food and beverage, but also in the hotel operations themselves. Do more local staffing of general managers and senior leadership, which we've also really done a great job in doing, and the pipeline continues to accelerate. So we have a lot of opportunity in China. The Hilton Garden Inn brand is growing very, very quickly. The whole Asian market is strong for us. I was just in both Shanghai and Singapore to do what we refer to as an immersion, and that's to make sure all our regional teams are familiar with the new approach we're taking with Garden Inn, so they can represent it well when they talk to our partners and potential new owners. And we just opened a Garden Inn in Shanghai last week.
Wow.
So we're moving along quickly and have a lot ahead of us.
Shanghai is such an impressive city. It's the first city that I've been to. I'm a New York boy, so it's the first city I went to that I went, whoa! These guys got some amazing skyscrapers there. It's absolutely
that's right.
It's absolutely a futuristic place. It's incredible to me.
It is, and for many people who haven't been there, that's the similar first reaction. Bright lights and tall buildings. Yeah. It's a beautiful spot.
I feel like Beijing is all about the history, and Shanghai is all about the future. Mm-hmm. So speaking about China, what's it like working in an environment where it's communist but not really communist, and any interesting things that you've learned about negotiating a different kind of universe than what it would be like to do something here in the United States?
The one highlight would just be the different expectations of owners in China, because the ownership groups there are different than those we typically would find in North America. And again, it's a nuanced approach that we've needed to develop, and that's where having people who are familiar with the market, and more importantly, familiar with the partners who can help us grow quickly, is very, very important. So we learn as we go, and I think we've learned a great deal, and that's why we're seeing the brands really pick up the pace of development and opening.
How long have you been with Hilton?
I've been with Hilton just over 6 years.
Just over 6 years. What were you doing before global head of Hilton Garden Inn?
I had a consulting business, but I had worked for other major hotel companies as well.
Interesting. So what brought you to this particular position?
I was brought in to relaunch the DoubleTree brand as head of marketing back in 2011.
Well, I didn't know that, and I'm glad I learned that, because you did a really good job with
thanks.
that.
Thanks. That was fun. I worked on DoubleTree and then ran brand performance support for Hilton Hotels and Resorts, and then came back to work on the DoubleTree brand again before I was asked to come over to Garden Inn.
Really like the DoubleTree approach of it's kind of shifted, in my opinion, towards more of a boutique kind of universe. Each hotel can express its own personality, but it's still backed by the confidence of the Hilton brand. Would that be a good assessment of it?
I think that's accurate. What we tried to do when we relaunched it was take the variety of hotel product and use it as a benefit, as different from apologizing for it.
Yeah.
And strengthen what we had and infuse a core of service that was going to be a culture of hospitality present no matter where you went, whatever the location was. And you'll see that with all the other Hilton brands as well. Garden Inn, for instance, was introduced as a prototypical brand in the Americas, but we have hotels that are not at all prototypical in other parts of the world. But as we talked about earlier, that idea of the core attributes that make the brand, and the service experience, the hospitality experience, being one that we really push very, very hard, because it's what our guests can expect consistently, and what our team members, and this is very important, thrive on, is being part of a very well-functioning team that delights guests with the approaches that we take.
Outside that food and beverage arena, you announced a refreshed Hilton Garden Inn back in January. How is that different than what we've seen before, and what do you expect it to do for the brand?
Well, the food and beverage offering we've improved. The regional prototypes, which we touched on briefly, we have the one for the Americas.
I want to hear a little bit more about the regional prototypes, because I'm a big fan of being a sense of place.
We have 6 of them. We have one for North America, we have one for Latin America, one for Europe, one for Africa, one for the Middle East, and one for Asia. And what we've done in those is really take some of the approaches that you need to take to be successful in those markets. Room sizes are different, for instance.
Right.
The focus on food and beverage is different. In many of our Asian hotels, for instance, you'll have buffets that are used very heavily 3 meals a day, which you'd never ever see in some European markets.
Right.
In Europe, the food and beverage, the bar is staffed throughout the day. In the Americas, it's not. So there's some differences that you need to build into staffing models, as well as the way the hotels are
So
put together.
understanding what the cultural differences are, and then trying to appeal it through smart design and well-thought-out food and beverage.
Exactly, and that's why we need to have some core components, but also trust the expertise of our local operators, the GMs and directors of food and beverage, to do what they need to do and give them that flexibility to be successful.
I'm curious about the Middle East type of prototype. How does it differ there? Because my hunch is that there may be a little bit more separation between men and women. I've heard some brands do floors for women only. I'm not suggesting you are, but I'm curious as to what your approach is to very significant cultural differences that are ingrained compared to here in the States.
Yeah, the biggest difference probably is the service of alcohol, where and when it's allowed. Hilton has hotels in markets where it is allowed, but ownership insisted that it not be served.
I understand.
There are exceptions, but it does happen. So that has to be something that we treat very carefully, because it's extremely important in different parts of the Middle East. What we also find is that the food offering typically is more robust or more developed than it is in many other parts of the market. And hotel dining is something that is still an experience that is viewed as a very desirable one, whereas in many markets, some markets, it's viewed as something that people are thrilled to have there because they're looking for a very good meal, but it's not a destination dining location, where it is in many of our hotels, Garden Inns in the Middle East.
Yeah, it's interesting that here in the United States, you have to have the food because people want it more out of convenience, but in other countries, it's really about being at that hotel.
Yeah, it's a very different approach.
Yeah, it sure is. Is there anything else that you want to share today?
I think that was really the point I wanted to make with you, was the refresh of the brand.
Totally.
The focus for this conference really specifically on food and beverage, which we announced today, and the regional prototypes, and the kickoff we have for them, helping people understand what they are, how they're different, and how we're convinced that for a lesser investment, an owner can get a greater return. And that's what we're here to tell some people about this week.
Great, and be sure you check in with John Greenleaf, the global head of Hilton Garden Inn, if you're here at the AAHOA show. But you know what? This interview is going to last in perpetuity. We're only here for 2 days. How can people find you if they want to get in touch?
We'll be over at the Hilton booth, which is center stage in the conference floor. And Hilton Garden Inn will also be giving a brief presentation at the interactive stage at 2 o'clock today, where I'll go through the approach to prototypes and food and beverage in a little bit more detail.
Excellent. So be sure to check that out. And I want to thank John Greenleaf for being here. This has been a lot of fun. I really love talking about all these different cultural nuances and regional prototypes and all that kind of fun stuff, because we can't all be the same. We got to shake it up. We got to be different. We got to do things that appeal to the individualized customer. John, thank you so much for being here.
I appreciate the invitation. Thanks so much.
And I want to thank all of you guys for listening, and stay tuned. We're going to be coming back with lots more great interviews tomorrow, and then you can check them out at the No Vacancy podcast feed. Thanks very much for watching, and we'll be back.
Thanks so much for listening to No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast, with your host, Glenn Hausman, online at rouse.media, on Twitter at Traveling Glenn, and on Facebook.com/Glenn.Hausman. We'll catch you next time.